Hey everyone, Scott Hansen here from NFL Red Zone. I hope you're checking out 1 hour of 5 Yard Rush, one of the best podcasts on NFL football in the UK.
Hey Rush Nation, how's it going? Welcome to the 5 Yard IDP show with me, Nath Davis, and him, Mr. Brendan Veal. Well, what a week one. What a week one. There was some great things, some awful things. Let's not get I'm not talking about kickers. Kickers.
We've promised we wouldn't discuss the kicker club. So one of them's already bitten the dust at the Colts in the last 24 hours. So
there's some bad news on the injury front as well, which we'll touch on some of that IDP wise. But now we're looking ahead to week 2. And we're going to be starting our IDP Educate series, which is pretty exciting. And then, but before I kick that off, I suppose, Mr. Veal, how are you? Did you enjoy week 1?
Yeah, it was, just great to sort of put your feet up and enjoy Sunday night football again. Like you touched on, it was a mix of, I suppose the number of pods I've listened to just in the last couple of days and it's week 1, all that sort of, you've got to factor that in. But I think we saw a mix of the kicker club aside. We saw some good, some bad, some surprising, I think. The goods, Chiefs, Bucks, your Vikings, Chargers, Dolphins looked pretty solid. The bad, Cowboys, Niners, Pats, Jets, Packers, Cards. The surprising, Giants, Bears, Bengals for the wrong reasons. But I think, maybe with the Steelers D, you shouldn't be too shocked about that. I think Burrow, just bad day of the office, they will be better. Real mixed bag, but a lot of fun. Certainly a couple of games that should have finished way, way sooner. It was just, really enjoyed Sunday evening.
I find it quite weird though, because after can't wait for it to get going, and then it's all a bit mad, and now I can't wait for it to sort of settle, because that first week is, like you said, there's definitely a few things in there. I see some people are really going off on that, on what happened on week 1. I mean, especially when it comes to, I'm not a Trey Lance fan at all, really, at this moment in time. The hype's so huge, but that weather was pretty bad, and that was not nice for him or for the 49ers anyway. And that was I just felt that was a little bit to jump too much on that bandwagon of it's all going to be completely going wrong.
It's one of those games you think that the Bears of this generation, any generation, they sort of live for those conditions. I was surprised by the game plan though, because I think that I still felt that there was stuff which I felt that the 49ers could have played it a little bit safer at times, and it just felt a little bit like they were trying to make something happen. Trying too hard. But I think there's so much pressure on them going into this season. I've openly admitted they'd have been an outside tip for me, and you can't. You'd be mad to sort of write them. But you know what some fans are like. It's crisis time before we hit week 2, and it's just keep it in perspective. Like you say, wait for things to settle down a bit.
The only good thing I'd say defensively, I do think that there was, it's a great week defensively, week 1, because you get all of these, you get people trying too hard, you get wide receivers not running correct routes and stuff like that. There was a few turnovers which you went, well, hopefully. It was really poor actually. The first I can't remember how long it was. It was like the first half an hour of the 6 o'clock kickoffs. The turnovers was crazy, the number, and some terrible throws from quarterbacks.
But again, you've got a lot of new combinations there. You can run the routes until you're blue in the face in pre-season and on the practice field, but until you get out there playing at 100 miles an hour, it'll take time. And the fans, these new combinations have got like at the Raiders. Carr and his old mate there. Tua and Tyreek, I saw some good things, but you can't expect him to explode out the blocks. I thought they used him quite cleverly.
Yeah.
He's not going to rip off, 60, 70, 80-yard touchdowns first game. But I thought he was a big enough distraction. And then you look at your Vikings and JJ just tearing it up, really.
Well,
so
when you talk about defenses, we'll get onto some of these in a minute.
Yeah.
But I mean that was one of the biggest shocks for me. I could not understand what the Packers were playing at, to be honest with you. They had such a good defense last season, and they looked like they didn't seem to break out of the game plans, and there was not a lot of shocking things by the Green Bay Packers. But I mean that was shocking. I mean, there was times where there wasn't a Green Bay player on the screen. I was like, what, have they left the field? And JJ's took that catch, and it was just like, I think he looked shocked a few times. But yeah, it was. Yeah, there was other teams as well that we can speak about, and we will get to them. But right, before we go on too much about week one and what's happening in week two, we are starting the IDP Educate series. Now, the IDP Educate series is something that we've been looking at over the off season, and really it's just about a lot of players that are playing fantasy football, the offensive side of game only, that are thinking about getting into IDP, and they want to know how to sort of like make that next step confidently. Now, there's so much information out there on Twitter and on various different platforms about IDP. Now, you can drown with snap counts and player alignment, all this kind of stuff, which is something that you can look at further on. I tend to look at quite a lot of that stuff, but I didn't do that for the first three seasons that I played IDP at all. I just learned the basics, and the basics were what we're going to try and cover off. And they are things like, how do we compare defensive players to offensive players? And that's what I'm planning on doing so that I can make it quick to transition. That's my plan. One of the questions, so what we're doing is I'm going to pick this question that we had early on. Actually, it was from somebody who's now in the 5 Yard family. They asked this question before they joined, actually, and it was, I play fantasy football and I have done for years and now want to play IDP. Can you help me understand how I pick one DL over another DL? So when we're talking about stuff, we're going to be concentrating on just basic, not true position or anything that far. This is DLs, and we're based on pretty much constantly on the sleeper platform. So if you look at it from that point of view, one DL over another DL. So I thought about this in great lengths, and I thought it's quite simple for me how I do that. If you compare them to wide receivers, some people might shoot me down for doing that, but just in this breath and in this example, I'm going to compare them to wide receivers. With wide receivers, you've got players that rely on high volume, on PPR, right? On PPR scoring, high volume, people that get targeted all the time, right? So if you think of players, if you think of targets as tackles, right? And then you think of touchdowns as sacks. This is when you're talking about defensive, what we call DLs, defensive linemen, really is edges. We're looking at edge rushers. But when we're talking about it, if you look at it from that, it's the wide receivers that are touchdown dependent against a DL that would be sack dependent. They would be comparable like that. But on tackle front, that's PPR. That's like PPR. Who tackles every time when they're on the field? You can kind of rely more. You can rely on tackles as a metric. You can't really rely on sacks. Maybe you can if you're TJ Watt and he does it year in, year out and constantly all the time, and a few others. But mainly sacks are sort of splash plays. And when you're looking at week in, week out, picking those kind of players is a bit risky if they're really sack dependent. And I'm going to put an example of I'll give you an example of, let me just add, I'm going to add my sleeper screen to the stream now. I'm going to do it on the Bengals. Two defensive ends on the Bengals, and that's Trey Hendrickson and Sam Hubbard. Now, in 2021, they didn't finish far apart. Let me just get them up on the screen if you can see it. Hopefully you can. Where are they? There. If we go search by points. Okay, Trey Hendrickson there. We've got him. We've got Trey Hendrickson there with 191 points. This fantasy and frame scoring, by the way. And it's Sam Hubbard finished with 184 points. Now, what is interesting with these two, they play for the same team, but they're two very, very different players, and very different players when it comes to picking them in the fantasy world. Now, Sam Hubbard is much more of a tackle guy, big guy, very good at stopping the run. Often moves to the inside to add to that sort of to the defensive tackles, really. And they create quite a solid front there. But that gives Sam Hubbard a decent sort of tackle floor with him. Trey Hendrickson, on the other hand, he is not a tackle machine. He finished with 34 tackles last season. Sam Hubbard, 62. The difference with Trey is a sack. He's their sack monster. He's the guy that he's small, nimble, but still strong. So what you're looking at there is, if you look at the sacks for those big sort of splash plays, and you're looking at a particular week where you want a splash play, and say he's got a really good matchup, Trey Hendrickson could be that man to put in. Sam Hubbard is your kind of more week in, week out kind of tackle floor kind of guy. That's how I would judge it. And throughout the season, Sam Hubbard is probably the safer bet. Now, what you've got to look at is exactly the same in the offensive way, is when you are constructing your roster, you're going to put players like you do when you're building your offense and you're picking players. You could be picking a Robert Woods or a Jalen Waddle or an underneath guy, somebody who's going to ask for a lot of targets. Waddle's probably not a great example, but somebody who's going to be looking at just demanding a lot of targets. That kind of guy is the kind of like your tackle guy. That's how I look at him. And then, like I said, the big play guy, big wide receiver, outside guy, you're looking at touchdowns, even somebody like your Mike Evans. But when Mike Evans, again, probably not the greatest example because he also commands a hell of a lot of targets. You've got players that do both. So if you go, I will show my screen actually one more time on that, because I want to talk about and show the top guys. So when you look at these top players, what strikes you? So if we search by tackles, I'll click on tackles first. You can see Cam Hayward led it. Christian Wilkins was second. And then you've got Donald and Parsons that are quite interesting. What's interesting with Donald and Parsons is look at their sack numbers as well. That's why those guys are so highly sought off, because they've got a decent floor and also a really high upside. And that's the key, is when you've got both, they're worth their weight in gold. Another player down there, Harold Landry, he was another one. These kind of guys, edge rushing guys that still stack up a fair amount of tackles, I mean, they are worth their weight in gold. And that's why you see those go off the board blinking early when it comes to IDPs. Something I'm going to touch on in coming weeks will be who you draft first. Now, this will probably cause quite a lot of chat. I think you go for the edge rushers first, personally. I do think you go for the edge rushers first, because I think there's more linebackers that are contributing solid numbers week in, week out now. And even this week, you'll look at quite a few. We'll probably mention them. We'll touch on some of those guys. When you look at the DLs that do both, that give you a high tackle floor and give you that sack upside, there isn't that many, really. There is a few, but they are usually quite star guys. Your Myles Garrett's, Nick Bosa's, that do a bit of both. Yeah, Cam Hayward's one. You saw him on the screen. He is one of these players that the IDP community absolutely love. If you've been playing quite a while, I guarantee you, a lot of us have got Cam Hayward on our lineups because we know he's another guy that is that does it both, but he often slips down draft boards because of age more than anything. But yeah, so that kind of covers off. That is like the week one, talking about DLs and talking about how you sort of like look at them in the first breath. You know, you want to look at either whether they're tackle dependent or whether they're sack dependent sort of DLs. If you're picking them up from that point of view, if you're looking at a list of top guys, you want to put them in those brackets of whether they are safe guys, safe floor, or they've got high upside, or if they've got both. Okay, so that's how I would look at it, and that helps you sort of, like I said, it's transition from offense to defense. Next week we will look at a bit more on linebackers, safeties. I'm not. I say safeties, but DBs for everybody on sort of sleeper really, but mainly safeties. They're going to be a bit more difficult because they are so varied now. They are your safety, your strong safety, free safety. They are not traditional in any way, shape, or form at this moment in time. And we'll touch on a few players. But hopefully that's a starter of what we're going to do. I'm going to pick a question that we've got. We've got a bag full of questions in the off season. We're going to pick one and we're going to try and answer it in depth and add a bit of educate around it. So obviously, any questions on that or any examples you want to give me more, hit me up on Twitter at NATO NFL. More than happy to answer them. But that's it on that IDP Educate piece for this week. Over to you, Bren, on starting them week 2 matchups. General chat. I've put general chat.
General chat. So that's we've done some in-depth notes. No, what we don't want to get too bogged down in, and I think we were a little guilty of this last season, is what we're going to do sort of with the pods going through now into the regular season is we'll do a quick whip through of the week 2. We might sort of touch on a few bits and pieces. And then once we've rattled through that quickly, we're going to go into in a bit more depth who we liked from last week and maybe a little bit more on 1 or 2 matchups that we like, particular players that you might want to be targeting on the waivers. So a little bit of everything for week 2. So we're going to start with Thursday night's game. 2 teams that started week 1 pretty well. So we got the Chargers at the Chiefs. So yeah, another good Thursday night matchup. They seem to be sort of, lining them up for us to stay up till the wee small hours. So both teams started well. I think Herbert came out sort of flying. I think the Chiefs, Mahomes has just hit the ground running. The Chiefs will definitely be the pick of the defenses based on what we saw on Sunday. Although, the Chargers have added a few pieces, they've still got JC Jackson to come back. So, how are you feeling about this one?
Real tough one. I was impressed by the Chargers defense. Khalil Mack. I had a feeling that Khalil Mack was going to get off on one a little bit with the pressure from both sides, from Bosa and Mack. It is really
looks a good combo, doesn't it?
It does look a good combo. I don't like Drew Tranquil much, and he got picked, didn't he? But anyway, I don't go on about him. But the match, who's at home?
Chiefs.
Oh, I'm going Chiefs then.
Yeah,
I'm going Chiefs, and I mean, like just mentioned, the Chargers really happy with their defense. Really happy with both sides of the ball from the Chiefs. I thought they were really, really good. So they've got that O-line looks good. Actually, both don't look bad, to be fair. And I just feel that defensively, the Chiefs have. I'm still gonna wait on whether I'm gonna say that they're sort of sorted out their issues when it comes to especially at linebacker and in the secondary, because we're going to have to wait and see. I think the way that game went with the Cardinals, they done their old thing of blowing away teams so quickly, and then that makes it really hard to actually really judge that game, because offensively, I thought they were so good. The Chiefs, so varied. I mean, I mean, it was like 9 different receivers or whatever. I mean,
no Tyreek, no problem. It seems business as
yeah.
usual.
Yeah, so yeah, Chiefs for me. But yeah, really, really excited to see both defenses sort of settle down. They both look good. I expect them to be in the top halves, both of them.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I think it'd be a bit closer than last Thursday night's game, but that was a little
Yeah.
bit lopsided. Okay, I'll side with the Chiefs on that one.
Okay.
Moving over to the early Sunday games. One I'm quite interested to see. So we've got the Pats going to the Steelers. Now I've already sort of lumped the Patriots into one of those sort of poor week 1 performances. I did say, unfortunately, we had a few technical issues last week, but as I was sort of covering off the Dolphins Pats preview, I was sort of I've had some worries about the Pats going into this season. I'm not sorry about it, but it's, I don't know. I was sort of trying to qualify about that by saying, look, you can never sort of second guess Belichick. He has this ability to sort of scheme things up, but they look poor. That they seem to be a bit devoid of ideas. They put some sort of runs together on offense and just didn't seem to be able to sort of do much when it really counted. And I said last week I could see although that was before I saw the Jets play, but I could almost see a situation where if it really goes sideways, you could see sort of, the Pats arguably finishing sort of bottom of that division. Anything happens to Mac, took a bit of a knock in the back, but the word is he's going to be okay for week 2. And now they've got to go up against the Steelers defense that really did a number on the Bengals. Okay, TJ Watt side, but we'll come to, I mean, it's one of those matchups where you've got to be looking at, Highsmith, Haywards, Ogunjobi, anyone really. It's one of those where you
Malik Reed, they've signed him on there. I mean, I feel that, I think you've got again, I don't want to get you don't want to start writing off teams and things like that. I think it's actually quite a good, it's potentially quite a good game for the Pats to try, and if it doesn't go to plan for the Steelers early on, which it might not. I mean, the Pittsburgh Steelers look particularly good against Bengals, but the Bengals look ropey. We'll get to them when we get to them. But I don't know whether they made Pittsburgh look good. I mean, obviously that takeaway by Minka Fitzpatrick pretty early doors, that set the tone really of the game. That was such a big point in the game that then it felt that the Bengals were always tracing, always pushing, and pushing too hard. Again, it was like I mentioned earlier about San Francisco not doing the more simple stuff. Definitely that can be said about the Bengals. God knows why they were trying to go to town so much. I just thought you could have really pushed the Steelers over. You know what I mean? They could have just got the job done. I just felt that they didn't. They pushed it too hard, and they just, they just. I don't know. I was disappointed with Burrow from that point of view. I just felt that he should have the game management. A lot of people will ask a lot of questions about him there, because you imagine, like, you just couldn't see it from a Brady or even a Herbert or anybody like that at this moment in time. They've just got a better game management head on them when it comes to it. He should have walked away with that victory against not a great Steelers team, and the Steelers played really well. I thought, and Mitch done really well. I was impressed with him. Defensively, the Steelers were exceptional, especially in the secondary. I mean, they just turning it over. Cam Sutton was great. Fitzpatrick, who was mentioned, was great. Edmonds was great. Even the linebackers, who I hate, were good. And it was like, and obviously you said about TJ Watt, real shame about the injury. But luckily he's not going to miss the whole season. He's going to be back. They reckon about 5-6 weeks.
Yeah,
There's
no surgery required. So
there's definitely some players to pick up though. You mentioned Highsmith. He had like 9 tackles, 3 sacks, and a forced fumble in that game. Malik Reed is definitely somebody that could be plugging that TJ Watt gap. So, I mean, he's no TJ Watt, but look, he's going to be somebody to definitely target because he's going to be a starter now. The match, Pats. I'll go Pats because I don't know. I just feel that they will bounce back. But mind you, is Mac injured?
No, I was reading up on it before we came on. So the back injury doesn't seem to. They're not ruling him out. The word is that he will play on Sunday. So and they need him to. I mean, to give the Pats, they ran the ball quite well on Sunday when they when they needed to.
Fantasy wise, it wasn't particularly great. There was a
Ramondre. I mean, again, the players. Judon had a good game. He got to Tua. Duggar in flashes. Well.
I mean, I looked at his snap count as well. He played a lot up in the box, which is great for somebody who we love from a safety point of view. Carl Duggar is up there.
I do think that the Dolphins, and it's been sort of touched on a few of the pods this week, they've kind of the Pats must hate this because the Dolphins have shown other teams what to do. You just keep throwing the blitz at them. And put pressure on them, and it's they're going to bust through with the odd running play, but you put pressure on Mac Jones and a it's not a great passing offense that he's got to sort of look at there, and I think the Steelers will just follow suit, and so
do you think the Steelers have got that one? I just maybe like you said, maybe I'm being a bit too Belichick history kind of thing. In a way, I kind of want the Steelers to push on and not be just that one game like they made the Bengals made them look good, because the Pats were bad. They were bad, and I felt that maybe it's crazy me going for him, but I'll go Pats just to be different. Yeah,
right.
Go on.
Next Sunday game, we've got Panthers going to the Giants.
Wow.
So, the Giants were, and I mean, you fired out that tweet on Sunday before the games, 5 players that you wanted to see sort of do well week 1, and Saquon was sort of top of my list. It was so nice to just see him, come back and look like, something close to what he used to be. But
Mike Dable, ledge.
Yeah, he's that's what the Giants want. Just go for it. Go for the 2. Don't.
I loved it.
Old Joe wouldn't have done that. That's why he's gone to the Patriots.
Yeah.
It'd be an interesting one. This. I mean, the Panthers. I don't know. We seem to spend a lot of time talking about the Panthers and what's wrong with them, and it's an interesting game because I think if the Giants can kick on and then go to the Cowboys in week 3, you could see an interesting sort of scenario developing in sort of the NFC East. I think, I think again, I don't want to get sort of too bogged down in the sort of specifics of it, but I think the Panthers are going to be sort of licking the wounds a bit from last week's game against Browns. Baker I thought he looked all right. He looked like he was going to sort of put it together.
Bloody Robbie Anderson as well. Anderson. He's on. I had him on 3 benches. He's
I had him.
He's one of those players, isn't he? Which you draft late on because you think he's still got to get a fair few targets. But starting him's the problem.
I was looking at his projected sort of figures, sort of for starts for week 2, and you're going, yeah, but if I start you won't do it, will you? You're so frustrating. You're like Brandon Cooks and players like that.
Baker will spend most of the game upside down. So
CMC will just run for 200 yards or something. Robbie will just be shambling around on the again, not wanting to. We've got a lot of games to rattle through, so I don't want to get too bogged down. I'd like to see the Giants doing well. I've always had a bit of a soft spot for them, and I fancy the Giants at home to to carry on. I think that they'll have. It was a tight win, but they went for the 2 in the clutch. Trusted in Saquon to get it over the line. And I think
even Daniel Jones actually, I know he got
looks all right.
Yeah, there was a couple of things that weren't great, but all in all, I did actually think he actually played all right, and it does make
you can say the same about Baker, but then you've got that pick, and you go, oh yeah, and the Browns fans will be going, yeah, we saw a lot of that.
I just thought that
just got to cut that out. I think he'll do all right at Carolina.
But the Giants as well, defensively is good. I think it's good. It looked reasonably solid from the changes that they've made. Even people like Tay Crowder. Okay,
he's got a
fair
step
few
up.
Missed tackles and stuff like that. But again, he actually played. I thought he played all right. He made a couple of absolute big hits, but it's the Giants are. They had a few people out as well. Ojolari didn't make it, did he? No. But they looked as a unit. They looked more of a team and more of a. I think there's definitely some noise coming out of that camp where you just feel that good things could happen for them. And I hope I'm with you. I'm going Giants. Like we said last week, I think the fairy tale of Baker, sticking the V's up to the Browns was realistic, but the fairy tale could only go so well. You still got to play well enough as a unit, and I just felt there was periods of that game where they didn't. I mean, Brissett was economical as well. The way he sort of, the way he sort of marshaled the ball and used the run game. Kareem Hunt was excellent.
Another one on my bench. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, again another one. Yeah, it's just again. I find him really difficult to start Kareem Hunt because
I think I should have known better because I think we touched on it last week, and actually that's a lovely little segue because we're both going for the Giants in that.
Yeah.
Next game on the list is the Jets at the Browns, and okay. Sure what to do with this one, but I don't think we should be surprised because we touched on it and because you got sort of Jake under center for the Browns, who is, like you say, I've seen him at the Dolphins. He's a good backup QB. He's solid. Yeah. He's not going to do anything flashy, but they've got Chubb and Hunt there, and they are just going to pound the crap out of it. Why wouldn't you? But they've still got options there, obviously.
DPJ
big sign in, I mean, I like the Browns in this one because, I mean, again, it's one of those that you sort of look at and you think, I mean, the Jets are, I mean, they've dropped to rock bottom in Dan Hanser's power rankings that I was looking at earlier, and I don't think that's any great shock. I mean, he's biggest sort of critic of the Jets, but it's one of those, again, looking at the matchups where you go, I think they will get better.
There was so much I liked about it. I mean, especially early on in the game as well. I thought the Jets they started really well, and I think the Ravens were struggling to really get going. They defended well. They got pressure. The secondary were in. There was hands in, and there was pass defended, getting all over. It was particularly quite an aggressive defensive performance by the Jets, and I just felt that they looked good. The problem is that that final sort of the final thing about everything, converting some of those pressures into sacks and making big plays, some big turnovers. And then it was, also on the offensive side, getting a touchdown, not just getting yardage and then nothing for it. It just felt a little bit like that. And you knew that the Baltimore would kick in eventually. And then Lamar, he threw a couple of absolute bombs. To what's his name? Got the Duvernay. Devin Duvernay. Jesus, another one. Where you go, I had Bateman, a lot of him. I was like, oh crap. But there you go. There we go. So I'm not going for the Jets in this one. So
no.
I just think, like you said before, I think the Browns have got a game plan because they're being forced into this game plan, and that is pound the hell out of it.
And I think on the other side of the ball, I mean, the Jets need Zach Wilson back, even though we don't know what he's capable yet. But I mean, Flacco, what was he sacked 2-3 times? He's hit for got it here. Yeah, 3 sacks, 10 QB hits. That O line looks porous, and you're looking at sort of, obviously Myles Garrett and Clowney and players like that.
There's a lot of definitely, you would be looking at a lot of the defensive players from the Browns this week and saying,
absolutely,
we don't want to be doing that with teams. You don't want to be picking particular teams to start players against. But at week 2, you're going to be a bit crazy not to start a few of those players, especially the edge guys. We'll wait and see.
Okay, Dolphins at the Ravens.
Cool. Cracker.
Yeah, I'd be looking. I'd probably be looking at. Well, certainly, and this player we'll touch on, but I'd be looking at sort of. I don't know. I really don't know with this one, because I think the big surprise on Sunday was how how Lamar approached the game and just aired it out. And it's an interesting question, actually. I put it in my notes, and you go, because I mean, obviously he's backing himself with this whole contract saga at the moment. You think, over the course of the season, is that going to impact on the way he's approaching games? Is he going to be less inclined to want to, put his foot in and sort of,
But do you? I know, I saw this written by somebody this week as well, where they were talking about that side of it. But I do feel that that has also opened up the fact, because of the fact of, you've got no Dobbins, you've got no Edwards, you've got Mike Davis, who they obviously don't want to use him. Kenyon Drake, yes, okay, but that could be still slightly in the passing game. So, it's played right back into Lamar's hands to be able to throw the ball from that point of view, and then use his own legs to get that to get the first downs when they're kind of needed. I know what you mean on the contractual side as well. I think he might do that a bit more on the weaker games. I'm not sure whether he'll go for it this weekend. I mean, you've got to play. What you saw from Miami was very, very. I thought they were quite disciplined on their approach as well. I thought when they spread the ball around. I know you people say about Tua's arm, and he isn't that kind of guy that can really throw the bombs around, and he isn't going to be able to, use Tyreek Hill in the way that Mahomes used him. But I did like the variation of it all, and I did find that they were moving things around and creating problems for the Pats. That I don't know how you felt. Were you surprised by the way the offense moved, Miami?
Not really, in so much as it was. I mean, I think I kind of expected, Mike to sort of scheme it up and not sort of go for the obvious, and it creates, using Tyreek like that creates problems. It opens up options. Like you say, you can spread the ball around, and then you get to the point later in the game, because of Tua's quick release. And that is one thing he's exceptional at, is getting that ball out quick and accurately over 10, 15 yards. And you saw it for the Waddle touchdown. Yeah. It was that quick that you had Carl Duggar running into his own player and Waddle's gone.
Yeah.
And that's what they can do. How teams are going to approach that, and I think Mike will have to be a bit cuter. But I think he's that sort of coach. He's had a great, teacher at the Niners, and they will run the ball more, and he'll look at the matchups and he'll identify when he can, when he can let it, let Tua sling it. But
because everybody kept banging on about the run committee and that side of things, and you got to be careful with drafting any running back from the Dolphins, and then what we saw was a heavy dose of Chase, and I'm not sure whether they are going to be like that. They might be when they need to be. They might be pound the rock when they need to be, but I don't think that's going to be the at all the game plan. I think Chase is it. I think he's the guy, and that's it. I think they're gonna mix up why they use him as well.
Yeah.
I think he just fits in as, sometimes he's going to be another gadget guy, really, because he can do quite a lot of things. Chase Edmonds, he's quite he did in Arizona. He wasn't just, he wasn't just the passing back.
No, and you look around, sort of, at the other passing options that we didn't really see on Sunday a whole lot. How they're going to use the likes of Mike Gesicki, Cedric Wilson, players like that. So there's options there that haven't really been discussed because so much of the focus was on Hill, and that's fine. I mean, Mike McDaniel will probably welcome that and go, "That's fine. You keep worrying about him because I'm going to figure out lots of other ways to, pick up."
Defensively, I mean, I just felt you sort of picked up from where you left off. I don't really think there's. I think Miami they're just a good defense, and that's they get pressure. It
hasn't been for several seasons now. Yeah, you've got some good players there, but you're not reliant on a Garrett, a Watt, a Bosa, or well, to be fair, he's got Khalil Mack now as well, or a Roquan or something like that. You've got good, solid players that know what they're doing, and you saw it in Brandon Jones, who we'll touch on a little bit in the DBs.
It is funny. You're completely right, Bren, and that's what makes you laugh sometimes, because you see Miami up there as one of the top defenses, and they look the top defense, but from a fantasy perspective, they're not. They are a bit of a nightmare because there's no, like you said, there is no real standout.
No.
Excellent players, but all it's not even a rotational game that it comes with. I don't think it is. I haven't really gone into the depth of the snap rate yet of this new
no, it's the way it was sort of schemed under Flores to give him credit, and he does deserve an awful lot of credit, and I think he'll do good things at Pittsburgh, because I think he's a very underrated coach, and I think he was badly treated by Miami. But things move on. Mike McDaniel's not going to come in and start dicking around with it. Why would you?
No. Why?
And it, like you touched on with the DBs when you're doing the education bit and the safeties in particular, and how they use them, and the flexibility of. I mean, there was a lot of focus on Javon Holland. That frees up Brandon Jones to sort of get in. He got the strip sack, and
I think they're a great DST to play in fantasy. I think they are. I think the Dolphins are top them because they love getting picks and things like that. The only issue is from a fantasy point of view.
Yeah, I mean, you've touched on probably the only one, and that's based on last season's tackles numbers, and that would be someone that never gets mentioned. That's Christian Wilkins.
Yeah,
because he's got that floor. Elsewhere, it's you can rely on Ogba for sacks, but not week in, week out. Baker's going to get decent tackle numbers, but nothing exceptional.
Yeah, so, and they used the problem is with Baker is Jerome Baker was a bit of a tackle machine, or looking like a tackle machine. And what did they do? They started running him. They started using him on the edge.
Yeah.
So then suddenly his sack count goes up, but his tackle count goes down. Which then you go, okay, well, I'm not going to pick him up over. Other edge rushers who I can definitely rely on.
We've touched on before, and they're not the only defense. I mean, the Bucs were one I mentioned a lot last season as being quite difficult because of the way they. There's a few teams out there that are like Miami, very good defenses.
So looking at the Ravens, and obviously on this matchup, when you're talking about Lamar throwing the ball potentially, or will he or won't he? I don't think you will see. I don't think it'll be as much as it was last week. I just don't. Well, depending on the game plan, how the game goes, and how it all pans out, I don't think the game plan will be.
No, I mean, I think they will target. There is still a bit of a hole in that secondary with Byron Jones being out of corner.
Yeah.
But again, will they drop? How will they utilize the safeties to try and come? I don't know.
It's risky. It's really risky against Miami. It is really risky against Miami because they are that team that sort of hunt these picks, and it's when it isn't right for a team to, say you've got a quarterback under center where he hasn't got the most accurate arm. It is one of those. It's like Miami's eyes light up and they go, "Hello, go on then, I dare you."
And bear in mind when we started that sort of decent run towards the tail end of last season. It was that away game, that midweek game against the Ravens, that sort of turned the tide a little bit because Lamar and the offense didn't really know what to do.
No, I think
Now,
it's going to be a problem. I think it is virtually, and it sounds awful to say this, but it does feel like Miami versus Lamar in this one, because it is going to be, he's got to really manage this game from the early stages, I think, because it could go horribly wrong very quickly for Lamar in this one. That's how I see it. And I'm gonna go for a Miami win because of I really think that out of a lot of games that Baltimore look at, I think they would have really, really, really loved their running backs fit for this one.
yeah,
Because
that'll be a bonus for us.
it's
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to back us to win, and because I think we can and we need to, because we're playing the Bills next week. So don't worry about that next week. Right. Spent way too much time talking about the Dolphins. Colts at the Jags.
Colts at the Jags.
Who to win and move on?
Colts at the Jags. Wasn't that impressed by the Colts particularly. I felt for Matt Ryan. I said I wanted Matt Ryan as one of my players who I wanted to do particularly well. He threw for like 340 odd yards, didn't he? I think.
Yeah. Well, he got things up and running nice and early with Pittman. I mean, he had nine receptions for 120 plus yards.
But I mean,
that side of it looks
the Texans. You just shouldn't. When people are talking about the Colts of being, a potential league winner and playoffs and all this kind of stuff, and you think, you need to dominate those kind of games and make sure you win them. If you don't, and that was kind of sad watching that for me from a Matt Ryan perspective. I just felt that, fair play to the Texans. Fair play to the Texans. Davis Mills played really well, and they did as a unit as well. The Texans looks like they did last season. A lot of people said it last season. They look better than we thought they were going to be. Because they've still got some good, solid players.
I mean, I liked. I mean, just look at the Texans' sort of defensive performance on Sunday, because I mean, I had this for a Colts win all day long. But
Greenard, we've been banging on about him all last year, and people are like, "Oh, he's good, isn't he?" And you go, "Yeah."
Yeah. The rookie Derek Stingley looked
decent. Jalen Petrie, the rookie, love him. Safety,
Jerry Hughes had a couple of sacks. Again, players that. Who's picking him up? Whether he'll do it weekend. I mean, for the Colts side, I think
Quiddy Pay
had a couple of sacks, didn't he? So
but he's somebody that I said about edge pressure being I was sort of like fishing at that. It was like, right, okay, who will we got? I want to see an edge from the Colts breaking that top. Somebody to talk about. Yeah. And it's like, okay, who's it going to be? It looks like it would be Quiddy Pay if it's going to be anyone. I still think they need to get more. They still need to get more pressure consistently, and that is where they'll fall down against some of these weaker teams, because if they don't, they'll make average quarterbacks look all right. Look quite good, and that's the problem. You need to make bad quarterbacks look bad. And that sounds really obvious to do, but one thing is getting pressure. You know what I mean? You've got to get it. So Jags, what did we see anything from the Jags that we really, really loved? I mean, I saw Travon Walker get.
Yeah, the rookie
got in there, innit? He got an interception, didn't he? Or a pick? Did he get a pick? I don't know. I thought he done something magical at one point. I think it was a pick. Yeah,
he had a sack and a pick.
Yeah, lovely.
Just checked.
Lovely. Yeah. So I mean, that's great. I mean, number one off from the draft. Getting that's a great way to kick that career off and to get that momentum, because a lot of pressure on him. But he looks a really good player. Other players, Devin Lloyd. Racked up the tackles, 100% snaps, and tackles were decent. I think he led the team in tackles. Alucon, yeah, he is what he is. Tackling sort of machine. But Devin Lloyd led it, which was nice to see because that's where I was kind of going. I fancied Devin Lloyd to be the guy. He's a really good player. He was a really good player coming out of college. I think they've done really well there. The rest of it though, from the Jags offensively, yeah. I mean, I saw that early. T-Law overshot Etienne in the end zone. That was a bit of a killer, that, because the Travis could have done what, if he'd have took that, if he'd have got that throw right and he'd have took that in, that was early on in the game as well. That would have settled Travis Etienne down for the rest of that game, because Etienne looked a little bit off at stages as well. Again, just trying too hard coming back from those injuries, and these players are just, of course they are. They're dying to impress, to show everybody what they can do. But yeah, for me, it's the Colts. I would just edge for. I'm not based on last week, mind. Not based on last week. Both teams, for me, they're both fine. But I just think the Colts will get it together, because I think they've got a good roster. I think they've got a good overall roster.
Yeah, I've got a sneaky feeling for the Jags at home this weekend. It's because they've got some tough, it's another divisional game, and they might be looking at sort of the way the Texans played last week and thinking, yeah, if the Colts put it together, then yeah, okay. But I don't know, they just didn't quit your side, and that sort of Ryan Pittman combo. I don't know, they've got to get the running game firing.
It didn't feel anything. Nothing felt quite anywhere. It didn't feel really good anywhere.
It was very much. I mean, if there was, no, actually, there was probably more than one, but that was definitely one of those where you're watching it going, this is a proper week one performance for both sides.
Yeah.
You go, yeah.
But even like the run game with Taylor, it just felt. He was working his ass off, and I just felt that nobody was. Their O line just, And it was just, you expect the Colts to excel in something, and I just felt they didn't really. In anything.
I'd like to see, like you say, Lawrence and sort of Etienne, and don't know if they can get that working, like you say. I don't know. I mean, it's not based on anything terribly rational. I just like to see him do well.
This for me would be a game I would skip. I would not bet on this game, because I don't know which way it will go. I just feel the Colts will get their house in order. I don't know when.
So, okay,
go on. Let's move on.
Not really learned anything. Right, Bucks at the Saints. So the Bucks were one of those sort of week one teams that, bit like the Chiefs, one or two others, kind of business as usual. I mean, the Cowboys were as poor as the Bucks were good. I mean, the defense held Dallas to under 250 total yards. They only managed 3 of 15 third down conversions against that Bucks D. Devin White, Antoine Winfield, Chad Barrett. All had good games, lots of tackles, sacks, QB pressures, pick from Winfield. Just looked good. I mean, just Bucks all over. So, yeah, it's, I think they're just going to carry on. They'll be there or thereabouts. The Saints, actually, I'll bounce this one over to you, because I didn't really see anything of the sort of Saints Falcons.
Great game.
Yeah.
Mr. Cracker, really. I mean, it's heartbreaking from Atlanta. I mean, again, just chucking away these big leads that they get. But I'll tell you what, the Falcons look. We'll get to them, but they looked particularly good for most of the game. And then it was like the fourth quarter. I think I read that Winston had 56 yards or something like that until the fourth quarter, and then he banged in 200 and some odd yards in that final quarter, and they looked brilliant towards the end of the game. The Saints, they looked back to their old selves again. It wasn't great at the start, but and do you know what, that the way it was won, that game, I I think that'll spur them on. I think the Saints are going to be pretty good. And this is the Bucks hate playing the Saints, and
They've got Brady's
yeah,
number.
they
Have had the last couple of years.
I think it's going to be a tough one. This again, it probably would be one that I wouldn't, where you would usually think, right, I'm going to put my money on the Bucks. I'm not sure I would. I think I'd skip it. I'll probably go Bucks on this, but it's not one that I feel that confident about. Notable players that done particularly well. Pete Werner, yeah, excellent. He played really well. His tackle numbers were up there, and I believe his snap count was particularly quite high as well. So that's quite encouraging to see.
Yeah. Well, we touched on this last week, didn't we? Sort of players that, with sort of changes going on, he was one that the Saints would have been looking to sort of step up. And yeah, I mean, I didn't see the game, but I've looked at sort of the numbers, and he's obviously in and around that sort of top 10 from week one.
Yeah.
Or in the top 10 rather. So yeah, nice to. I think that's what they need. Someone, someone under 35 sort of coming through.
Yeah, I mean, also I'd just say about obviously, I know Micah Parsons is a game wrecker, but there is a few questions on this O-line and the Bucks. There is a few questions around it, and yeah, they done well. They did do well, but there's something that could be exploited there, and I would look at Cam Jordan this week as maybe somebody I would have a little sneaky punt on getting a couple of sacks. If I was going to have a gamble on a player, I might go somewhere like that. Just as an outside little tipster there.
So we're not going to gamble on it, but would you fancy to win it?
Yeah, go Bucks. Go Bucks, just because I still think they will just edge it. I do think they will edge it, but
I think Brady will be looking in what is likely to be his last season. Yeah, I think he might just do it. Right. Okay. So Washington at the Lions is the last of the early Sunday kickoffs. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's start with Washington, because I've generally been very, very critical of Wentz. I'm not a fan. I'm generally never have been. But to be fair, I thought the Washington passing game was pretty good. Wentz threw for over 300 yards, 4 TDs. All right, a couple of picks. You're always going to get that with Wentz, and that's why I'd say, if you're looking at sort of, DBs generally, I'd be looking at sort of, matching up against someone like a Wentz, because he will throw a couple of picks.
Totally agree. They haven't got a run game at this moment in time. Gibson's being used out the pass.
Yeah, having said that, though, I mean, okay, Terry McLaurin, no great. Curtis Samuel played well. Rookie Jahan Dotson looked excellent for me. And to be fair, on the other, the Washington defense got good pressure on Trevor Lawrence during the game. Couple of sacks, 10 QB hits. So I thought Washington looked all right.
I was really flying the flag for Cole Holcomb. I picked him up a lot this year. He didn't get off to the greatest of starts at this week, which was a bit of a shame. But Jamin Davis, obviously, he looked all right. I think, I agree with you. I think Washington are a team on the up, and I actually really enjoyed watching that game. I mean, like you said, Gibson's usage was great to see. I mean, people were touting him that he was only going to be a bloody kick returner at one stage, and he scored really well points wise, and was used really interestingly. I mean, as a very good pass catching back, and then Logan Thomas was sprinkled in, and like you said, Curtis Samuel, and they've got a lot. I like it. I like their offense when it starts moving. It's quite dynamic.
What about the Lions?
I mean, obviously, I'm all about the Eagles. I'll get to the Eagles in a bit and have a moan about what they did, because they looked particularly great and then bloody awful at stages. Partly because of the Lions. I think the Lions are good. They're a good unit. They're do things well. It's just having the players that are good enough to get them over the line constantly. I mean, DeAndre Swift he seemed to be the difference maker at the points of when they really needed to. Jamal Williams done really well running the ball in, and also had a couple of good breaks. But yeah, Hawkinson is what. Just they all done their jobs, and they all looked particularly quite good. Goff was all right. Defensively, I do worry for them a little bit. I think Tracy Walker's
room for improvement now.
Tracy Walker is exceptional for them. I worry if they lose him. I do worry if they lose him because I think he's one of the few that has got the overall defensive brain. You know, there's a lot of new guys that are in there in new schemes that look good and don't mind putting their bodies on the line. Malcolm Rodriguez is an absolute nut job. He's great to watch. Absolutely great to watch. Love him. And there's quite a few other players, even Anzalone. I mean, I don't rate as a linebacker, but he is quite fun to watch. This one, I think, is it at Detroit?
Yeah.
God. Yeah. Oh. God, another one that I would skip betting. I wouldn't like this. I
think a really small accumulator you're putting on this.
Yeah. Yeah. Odds are going to be shit. I'm going to go Detroit because they're at home. That's kind of it. I did like I said, I really did like what the Commanders did, and like you said, defensively as well, they looked okay. I wasn't expecting a great deal from them, but they did do okay.
Yeah, I'm going to buck the trend and go. I'm going to go Washington. I'm going to back Wentz for once. But again, not simply, but I like the passing game, which we touched on. I like the amount of pressure the defense, put on Lawrence last week. I think they'll try and do the same with Goff if they can stop Swift. It's another one of a coin toss so early in the season, really. I think the Lions, to be fair, though, going forward, there's enough encouragement there. They're not going to play, if they put up 35 points. They're not going to have to play the Eagles every week. If they can hang in games like they did, to give them their credit, then they are going to pick up wins. There's no doubt about that.
That's what I see on this one. I do see them hanging around, and and the problem will be there won't be. I worry for the Commanders with their game management. Like any team that hasn't got a steady run game that they can go back to and rely on. Your problem is game management then, because if you do get in front and you've got to try and run a clock down, okay. But put the ball in Gibson's hands and they don't trust him. That's why they don't. I don't think they do. Not as a constant rock pounding running back. I think that's where the issues lie there. They like him out of the backfield, and I do. I think he's all right from that point of view. So, but yeah, okay.
Right. Moving on to the late Sunday kickoff. So, Jesus. Right, we've got the Seahawks at the Niners. Where do you want to start with this one?
Okay, so let's go. Let's just stick quickly on it. So the Seahawks, brilliant performance. Most people backed Denver to win that game. And then they took the wrong option in the end. People keep banging on about that option. That isn't what cost them the game. Yeah, okay, you could say Russell Wilson could have gone down in front and done something magical, but he probably wouldn't have. Not in the game that he played. But the Seahawks were definitely a lot to blame for that. I think they played quite well as a unit when we weren't expecting it. Linebackers, Brooks, and obviously my boy Cody Barton, absolutely been banging that drum for ages, and he come in, played the snaps, done the job. Tackle numbers good. They lost Jamal Adams. There is, I'll find the name of the guy, Jones, I think it is. It is Jones, who we're expecting to step in for him. He actually come in. I can't remember what his name is. Jones. It's definitely something Jones. He he took the remainder of snaps when Jamal went off, and I think he got a decent amount of tackles straight away. So he's got a good floor and he's decent in that safety position. Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, it was good. It was good from the Seahawks. Good from the Seahawks. Can't really knock them from that point of view. Hey, who are they playing?
The Niners.
The Niners. Oh God, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. So I think 49ers will be back. I think they'll be back this week, and I think it could be it could happen for them this week. Weather should be all right. And I think then we just go back to normal. We go back to normal. I think we will see. We'll see something from Trey Lance.
Elijah Mitchell's out, but they've got sort of players that can sort of fill that.
They don't see. It doesn't. I mean, Elijah Mitchell. I mean, when Mitchell left the game, it definitely hurt them, because he seemed to be able to gain ground that others couldn't. When Jeff Wilson wasn't particularly great, but in this one, I do think that they'll be absolutely fine. One guy we've got to mention from the 49ers was their safety. Now, let's try and get this right. Talanoa Hufanga. I've heard this pronounced about 50 different ways this week, this guy. At safety, he got a PFF grade of 90.8, and he was the best defensive player on that pitch for the 49ers. He had 30 snaps up in the box. That's one thing. Is 11 tackles. He looked just could be. He could have a real season, this kid. I really liked him. It was like every time you watched any play from the Bears, he was there. He was all over the place. And I just feel that, if he's got that job, like him a lot. Yeah. So if you find him on waivers, you need to be putting bids in for that chap, because he's somebody who I really, really rate.
Had a pick as well, didn't he?
He did, yeah. He did have that pick earlier. That's probably not going to do him much favour on waivers, because, I think a lot of people did see that and say, hello, who's this guy? It might be the only thing, you don't go blowing all your fab on him, because it is only week 1. But if you can get him for, a few bucks, $10 or whatever, I would definitely have a nibble.
Yeah. Okay. Both going with the Niners on that one. Falcons at the Rams.
Oh, at the Rams. I'm going to go Rams.
Yeah,
because I think they'd be too strong. But I was really impressed by Falcons. Really impressed by them. Yeah, they were good. They were really good. They were really good defensively as well. They got a lot of pressure on Winston, and rookie Richie Grant looks really good. Safety. Mikael Walker, linebacker, really good. Another player we've been banging on about.
Yeah, he's one featured this week.
It's a bit of it was a bit of a sleeper towards the back end of last season, but he definitely, it was 100% of snaps. Yes, he did in the middle linebacker role, really. So 6 tackles, 2 pressures, 1 sack, and a forced fumble. Take that every day. So Mikael Walker, happy days. The Rams O-line needs to just quickly go on that, just touch on that. I mean, the Falcons are no Bills. Don't forget that. However, I'd have a little go with Grady Jarrett, maybe. Have a little punt on him if you got him, and you're looking at if you're willing to gamble on somebody to get a few sacks. I mean, Grady Jarrett's got to be a go, really, against that O-line, just basing it off last week. However, it probably won't happen again. They're probably tightening it up, but you can only go off what you can go off. Rams for me to win the game, though. We've spoken about the Rams against the Bills, just them getting absolutely pummeled, really, by the pass rush, which was the shocking part of it. And that really upset everything going forward for them. And obviously Stafford's arm, we're not sure about that elbow at all. I'm not. There's something wrong with him. for me. I don't think he's confident in throwing the ball.
Yeah, they looked very, very one-dimensional against the Bills. He seemed to be looking for, if he couldn't find Cup, he didn't seem really interested in trying anything else. Allen Robinson ran around a lot.
What's his name? I can't, a chap with a funny name, Skumarek or whatever. The wide receiver who got a fair few targets. Higbee got a few as well. But yeah, not enough. But I do expect them at home against the Falcons just to have just too much.
Yeah. Okay. Right. 3 more late games on Sunday. Cards at the Raiders. Well, I mean, the Cardinals, the one I highlighted at the start of the pod, just looked poor, really.
Yeah, they did look poor. I felt they were a team that just
seemed devoid of confidence and ideas. And
it's so different. It's so difficult against Kansas, though, isn't it? I mean, going to Kansas first game is going to be like, it probably knocks you straight onto the back foot straight away, and then therefore, can you pick yourselves up? They did in little bits, but not much, and I just felt that, didn't particularly like it.
It's another difficult one, this, because I mean, neither of them had, the Raiders didn't. I mean, obviously, all the focus was on how well sort of the Chargers played. I think the Raiders will get.
Yeah, that's what we would say about both of these teams. They both had terribly hard first games, which is difficult to really comment on what they're actually going to look like. In this one, it's actually going to be more of we're probably going to see whatever happens on this one. We're probably going to see a lot more of. I see Crosby got a lot of pressures, but again, didn't turn him into any sacks.
Yeah,
which is an old story that we've had from him, but you can't. At the end of the day, Max Crosby is somebody that I would still, I'd still be flying that flag for. And it isn't. Surely that game that he ends up with 5 sacks is going to happen, but I don't know. I've got one person to mention on this one, and that is Divine Diablo. Again, another player for me. He was the guy that I don't know whether he still got it. Is he still got dual designation? DB and linebacker.
I'm not sure, actually, because I had him on a couple of rosters last season, but I don't think I have this season.
Yeah, I mean, he seems to have this. He seems to be looking like you got this Denzel Perryman ankle injury, and it seems to be that Diablo's going to get that job. There's 3 linebackers that were on the field: Perryman, Diablo, and Jayon Brown. But I just feel that. Diablo's the guy to have it, and I like him. I like Diablo. I think he's good. He wore the green dot as well. That's one thing that I noted down. Got 7 tackles. You just got to be a bit cautious about that usage. But I like Diablo, and he could be somebody that gets a fair amount of regular tackles. He's another one. If he's on that wire, grab him, swap him for somebody that is that is more of a gamble. Swap him out and put him in as somebody that will get you.
They've got him listed as linebacker.
That's fine. Yeah. It's fine. It was great when he wasn't. Obviously on DB, it was a little cheat code for a little bit. But anyway, Diablo's there. Obviously, for me in this game, I'm gonna go Raiders.
Yeah,
I'm gonna go Raiders. I think they're a more complete unit at the moment. I'm not a fan of the Cardinals. I can't get behind them because they just make strange choices. And I like Hollywood Brown, but I didn't like them letting go of Kirk.
No.
And now the young guy that they used was on their. He was one of their. I'm sure he was one of their returners or whatever that got used all this week. I can't remember the chap's name. Got targeted the most as wide receiver over the middle. There you go. So for me, Raiders for me. Who have you got, Bren?
Yeah, I've got the Raiders at home. I think that Carr sort of Adams combo
looks good, looks solid. Look like they've been there for ages.
So obviously they're sort of close friends anyway. So I expect them to, like we said, both had tough week 1 games.
Yep.
A bit like you, the Cards, I just don't know what to expect from them sort of week to week. We'll see a bit more in the coming weeks, as you said. So, but no, Raiders at home. Texans at the Broncos. So I really don't know about this one.
Another skipper.
Well, I don't know. I think if I was going to have a sort of cheeky, I wouldn't be if someone said you've got to stick a tenner on the Texans, I go, well, actually, I wouldn't have too much of an issue with that, because they're going up against Russ Wilson, so the D line, the DLs stand a good chance of getting to him. We've already touched on the Texans players that had good week 1 games.
Greenard,
Stingley, Hughes. Hughes has already kicked off, as we said, with a couple of sacks, and he's going up against Russ. I'm not keen on this Denver O-line.
I get you, and I'm with you. I'm gonna go Texans. I'm gonna go Texans. I think it will happen. Something will happen Broncos way, and they're gonna look particularly good on some weeks. When those weeks are, we're not sure when they're gonna be. I don't see them being a consistent performer at this moment in time. I think it's going to take them a while to get going, and then we can reevaluate and see if they can be a consistent performer.
I am hoping I'm wrong, because God knows I've got Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy in, on one or two.
Jerry Jeudy, good, decent touchdown, mate. Run it in,
so
lovely.
He had a decent week 1, so I can't complain too much about that. But I don't know. It's something just looked off with. And again, all right, it's week 1, so let's not jump the gun on that one.
But Texans, we mentioned the players that we wanted to do. Jalen Pitre is somebody who I like. 92 snaps, 100%. In that first game.
I think we mentioned sort of the Broncos, was it last week? And they're still one of those teams where I look at the defense as a whole and go, I wouldn't be adverse to taking 1 or 2 out of the secondary, but elsewhere I'm kind of reaching a bit. Week in, week out consistency, and just don't know, just something.
Talking about that safety, Jalen Pitre, the rookie. 92 snaps he had, 100%. But 92 snaps, that is a huge amount. And that just tells you how much time they were on the field, that defense, that Houston Texans defense. But also for the IDPers looking for somebody to pick up, this kid, he played 53 snaps right up near the line of scrimmage. 53 snaps were right up there, which means that the lad could have some serious upside getting involved in sacks, QB hits, pressures, all these kind of things. So Jalen Pitre is definitely somebody to circle. I think he's somebody I've definitely got my eye on. Is one of these kind of players that, is this somebody that is gonna, really break the mode and push his way up the top with people like Derwin James and players like that. But
I suppose the one sort of standout performer for the Broncos last week, sort of Bradley Chubb at DL.
Yep.
He had a couple of sacks, but he'll be on a lot of rosters, so I don't think you're probably not going to pick him up. So a lot of people seem to like Bradley Chubb, but consistency
is always the problem, and the injury issue is always that always puts people off Bradley Chubb. I mean, what we've seen of him when he's on the field and he's properly fully fit, he's a really good wrecker. Actually, I like him. Okay, so I'm
going to take a punt on the Texans this week.
Same here then. Punt away.
The final sort of late game on Sunday is one to look forward to, I think, for a variety of reasons. So you've got the Bengals going to Dallas Cowboys.
Is that the late one? Is that the one we're all staying up for?
No. That's
the bank holiday.
No, that's the 9 o'clock one. So it's the last of the 9 o'clocks.
Okay.
Or 9:25. Sorry. So.
Dallas, shit.
Couple of reasons. I think it's one of those matchups, and we've touched on it before, where you're going to be looking at, and Nath has touched on this in sort of past pods during the regular season, stacking players. Well, you've highlighted a couple, just in the educational bit. I think that Cowboys O-line is poor. Dak's out. There's an awful lot of things sort of wrong there. So again, I think the Bengals on offense, they're going to be better. Joe had for all the Steelers were good on defense. We've already said Burrow, he's going to have a better day at the office. So straight away, I'm looking at obviously Hendrickson, Hubbard.
Yeah.
Even in this match, even players like DJ Reader, BJ Hill.
Yeah.
If you're short
agree.
on players, really getting after that.
I really agree with Hendrickson. I think Hendrickson could be, he's the one where you'd sort of like circle him for. I know you're gambling when you're talking about sacks, but that is potentially, is it Cooper Rush who it sounds like it's going to be?
Yeah.
So, okay. Well,
so
yeah. And also, he's Cooper Rush and they could be behind quite quickly. If they are, you're going to force the kid to stand in the pocket and throw. And the Bengals secondary are no mugs. So they cover everybody up. And he's going to get it.
Yeah. So, yeah. That's quite an easy one, that.
Yeah, Bengals.
Bengals to win.
What's the late?
The late on a Sunday is Bears at the Packers.
Jesus Christ, my favourite division. The Bears at the Packers. Well, let's talk about them. The bloody Packers. Well, I mean, fantastic for me.
Missing Zadarius Smith.
Thanks very much.
What a shame.
I mean, look, I just the Packers were just are the head scratcher of the week, aren't they? Really? Yeah. I mean, I think teams are going to be like, what are they going to do? But we didn't expect them, both sides of the ball, to look so kind of lost, and that's the problem with them. And the Bears winning, which will really rejuvenate that kind of that whole roster and. Justin Fields and it's difficult for me in the North because obviously as a Vikings fan I don't like any of them, or I'm not meant to, but I must say I am looking forward to seeing the Bears back in amongst it if they can get there. I mean, they're a long way from it, don't get me wrong. I don't think that the weather played right into their hands. Absolutely right into their hands. But they still had a job to do. Justin Fields in parts I thought he looked excellent in some parts. He made some good choices. Obviously, still rough around the edges in particular plays. But all in all, especially when you put him up against Trey Lance, they were miles apart. I mean, I like Justin Fields. I do really like him. I think he's a really good quarterback, or potentially a really good, solid quarterback as well. This one, is it at the Bears?
No.
Soldier. Oh, okay. No. Yeah, I'm going. No, I'll go. I'll tell you what. I'll go Bears. I'll go Bears, but probably bet on the Packers financially because it's a safer bet that they'll turn it around and they'll sort their shit out. But they don't deserve our bet after that performance, if you know what I mean.
No, I mean, I think head scratcher is absolutely sort of bang on. I mean, just watching Aaron Rodgers, it almost like he was carrying an injury sort of week one. Something looks off.
Yeah, I mean, obviously he wasn't happy with he wasn't happy at all with what players were, doing wrong and all that. But at the end of the day, especially the young ones, I mean, you're like, okay, but that you're not helping the team by having, throwing the toys out the pram if that's what he's doing. But I don't know. I don't know whether it was all that. I didn't like the whole game planning schemes and all that kind of, just generally, they look just lost. They look like they were the team starting off in the division. It's like the first, but anyway.
I'll and again, you got sort of if sort of Quinn and Roquan have sort of good games and can rattle Rodgers. I think it's one of those head. I'd love to see the Bears win it because I think they've got 2 wins. Then they've got the Texans come into them week 3, and you start to. I'd just like to see the division. I'd like to see someone mix it up in that division. But at home, it's tough to bet. I'm going to go with the Packers. I'd rather have the Bears win it, but I think the Packers will win. Right.
You go Packers on the Bears.
So, and then we got a couple of weird ones. So we got a couple of Monday nighters, haven't we? So we've got the Titans at the Bills.
Okay. I'll talk. Can I just quickly? I'll just quickly go on my bit on the Titans.
Yeah,
quickly because I've got. I just wrote a little bit. Rashad Weaver, Jeffrey Simmons, and Bud Dupree. They combined for 5 sacks against the Giants. Rashad Weaver is the guy stepping in to fill Harold Landry's boots, and it was a great start to his season. So Weaver's pre-season is sort of like carried over to the regular season. We thought as soon as that injury happened with Landry that he was going to be the chap, but again, it's really difficult from an edge rusher to like for that kind of role to understand because it's such a rotational one as well. So you need to be a little bit cautious. But Weaver looked really quite good, and so did the Titans, which was surprising. It shouldn't have been surprising to us because they've got Jeffrey Simmons and Bud Dupree. But with Landry going, I think everybody thought that they might be sort of like, it might really knock them back. But they did. I thought they looked particularly quite good. The Titans up front. What else have I got? Not too much more on them. Just wanted that bit. Rashad Weaver is the guy that would be on waivers and somebody that if you see him, stash him. Or you can start him, not that confidently, but you can start him.
Yeah, no, he's one we've definitely got on the list. Outside of that, I'm not going to dwell on this one too much. Can't say anything outside of the Bills. Just running away with this one. I think the Titans will be chasing the game early, which will be a concern. There's a lot of pressure under. With sort of Tannehill now, he's always good for a couple of picks. So I'd be fishing around that sort of Bills secondary, but you're not going to pick.
Did you worry on the usage from the offense from the Titans? It worried me slightly to see what they chose to do. I mean, it was eye-opening to see Dontrell Hilliard used a lot in the passing games. He got a couple of touchdowns, I believe. But the usage of Robert Woods wasn't particularly much, which was a little bit surprising. And that worries me. That does worry me against somebody like the Bills because they used the rookie as well. Can't remember his name. Not Gray. Gray's the one that went to went to the Niners. I can't remember the other guy. But yeah, rookie wide receiver that they used quite a few times. Who's a good player. But I worry against the Bills because this is the kind of prey that they would love to, you're not talking that it's not AJ Brown in that backfield.
No, and on the deck, obviously they'll lean on sort of Derrick Henry now he's back.
It's going to be, I think it would be massive Henry, massive lean on him. I would if I were them as well because
it's safe with that, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it. Yeah, I think it really is on this one as well. I think it is really risky throwing to some of those receivers against that Bill secondary that is just like on it. It's the worst thing that could happen for the Titans was that performance by the Bills against the Rams in a way because you just think, will they carry on where they left off? Bills for me, 100%.
Yeah. And just rounding it all off, and this is by far and away sort of arguably the best till last. Vikings at the Eagles.
Jesus, I mean, I've sort of like been dreading this game already because it's like obviously the Eagles have become my second team.
To be a neutral watching this, or a semi-neutral based on our
I mean, we were brilliant. We were, and like I'm not usually. I don't usually get too excited about the Vikings and the way that we play. But the new coach and the new setup, which defensively, it's like we've gone back in time slightly and people are just doing their jobs. It's just pretty much a straightforward sort of setup, but everybody does their jobs and they do them particularly well. They seem to know their, and Zimmer was always a good defensive guy, but I did go a little bit wayward the past kind of 2 seasons. We didn't look particularly good. And straight away we did. Jordan Hicks, great signing. He could be a tackle machine this year. He could be the tackle guy as well. Forget I would even now at this moment in time say that he's going to finish above Kendricks in those tackles, because I just feel that Hicks has always been an absolute up and down hitter. Now, with Kendricks is quite a clever linebacker who has evolved into somebody just getting a lot of tackles and doing absolutely everything. Now he can be a little bit more expansive with Hicks, taking more of a bang, bang, bang hitter kind of role. So I quite like that side of things. Smith on the edge and Hunter, excellent. Pressure was all coming all the time. It was a consistent problem for Green Bay. Secondary also looked good. Harrison Smith, like I said, everything defensively looks particularly good. Offensively, we know what we've got offensively, and it's just a case of, for me, it's that defense. If the defense works with the weapons that we've got, we could be somewhere or there, or we could be there or thereabouts where we want to be. So yeah, it's all looking great. The Eagles, wow, that was just. I went from up to down to up to down. It was just like that. I mean, the Eagles were great in spells, really good, really, really good, offensively and defensively in spells, and then really bad in others. I can't believe how much. I was shocked at how much Detroit gained on the ground. I mean, they didn't stop Williams and they didn't stop Swift, and that front line for the Eagles looks really quite good. I was absolutely shocked. So, I mean, it'd be interesting to see what the Vikings do with that, because it could be Dalvin Cook. However, it won't be, because it won't be. It'll be JJ until somebody intercepts him or he starts dropping the ball. They're going to absolutely let him feed, because let him go. Just let the kid's great. Yeah, we are at the Eagles, aren't we? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, but I'm going to go us, because I think we'll go Vikings, because we looked really good. I think we looked really good, and in parts the game management. Maybe I'm getting too ahead of myself because the Packers were really bad. That's the only bit that I'm a little bit wary of. Well, how bad were the Packers to make us look even better than we actually were, if you know what I mean? When I think the Lions played quite well. They did play quite well against the Eagles. Yeah. I expect the Eagles to get better as well. I'm going to 100% of snaps, green dot on his head. My boy, TJ Edwards. I mean, what do we need to? What else do we need to do to stop? No. And he's still in drafts. Still right up to the end. He was still left on there, and I was like, thanks. I don't understand why people aren't listening.
No, it's right. Well, I think I'm not going to say too much. I mean,
are you going Vikings?
Oh, I don't know. The Eagles have got to be better. Like you say, I mean, they'll have looked, for me, they'll have to have taken probably not a terribly long look at the way the Packers were trying to handle Jefferson.
JJ.
And they'll just go, yeah, but the Packers persisted with this zone defense, and he just tore through it. And I don't think the Eagles will do that. You know,
they did change it. They did change it towards the end of the game, but it was way too late.
Way too late. So I think, you know, the Eagles will take step. Whether it will make a difference, I don't know, because they're talking about. I was reading an article earlier, and it's actually really surprising, actually, that, you know, no wide receivers ever won the MVP. Never. And that does seem, when you look at what's gone before, you know, Jerry Rice has gone back. It's just crackers. It's
silly, really. It's silly, really, that MVP. Because I mean, if you look at it last year as well, I mean, Cooper Kupp. I mean,
yeah, that's a prime.
They won. If you took Cooper Kupp away from the Rams,
yeah, and I don't think there's any doubt in anyone's mind that Justin Jefferson is going to be that important this season. If you keep him fit, he's going to be he's going to be a real pain in the ass. The Eagles, yeah, I mean, he said defensively, I expect him to be better. TJ Edwards, I think the D line will have to be stronger and shut down Dalvin Cook. Hurts and AJ Brown looked very good, sort of week one.
Good, very good.
That's another good combo. We seem to have highlighted sort of 2 or 3 this just in the first week. In terms of result, I don't know. I am going to go with the Vikings because I think maybe looking at, for all we banged on about the Eagles defense, they have brought in a few components.
Yeah,
and
it's a lot of change. Lot of change.
Yeah, because they're white and stuff like that. So I think for that reason alone, I might just say it's a work in progress. That defense has all the pieces to be really good, and it probably will, and it should. I just think the Vikings have got some weapons to sort of take advantage of it before it gets time to really, really settle down.
Yeah, I think there's some points to be had as well, like fantasy wise, like you said about TJ Edwards and Kazir White. I think that this week could be big points for those both in that central. Both sides.
Busy. Yeah.
Both sides as well. Hicks and Kendricks will be busy. I think it'll be run first big time from both teams because that is the bread and butter of both of these sides, and both of these sides are trending upwards in the right direction for their you know what I mean. So they certainly won't have they won't be throwing caution to the wind both sides. It'd be very important for them both for this game because this is kind of a bit of a season setter for the winner of this one in a way.
I think that's a very good point, and I think fantasy wise on both sides of it, like you say, those 4 players you've highlighted in the middle of the 2 defenses, and then we're not here to talk about the offense, but Dalvin Cook, Miles Sanders on the other side. You've got to be started. I think it's going to be a really interesting game. I don't know. It could descend into a bit of a shootout later on, and if it does, it's going to be bloody good fun.
Yeah, it'd be good to watch.
But I don't want one team. I know you'd love this not to be the case. You'd like to see the Vikings sort of 20 points up by half time. I can't see it happening.
It's one of those games where I look at it and go, it's like it should be the highlight of the game to watch for me. I'm scared shitless of watching it because I just like looking at it and think, I'm like, oh, it's one of those teams. It's not gonna end very well for in a way. Well,
if the Vikings fumble it, then you can finally send away for that Philly jersey you've been threatening to buy.
No chance, mate. No chance. I've watched this really bad, so
No, it'd been again. The Vikes are one of those teams that you'd like the Giants, like the Bears, not the Bears in your case. There are a few of those teams that as a neutral, you'd like to see them. They've been frustrating for so long, or just downright poor, and let's hope they come good. Right. I'm conscious of the fact we have sort of overrun a little bit on the week. So very quickly, we're not. So we've already sort of touched on a few. So very quickly going into week 2, just going to rattle through and Nate will sort of dive in. Just very quickly as a general for week 2, if you're looking at sort of teams and matchups, we've already highlighted, suspect O-lines going into week 2 for me, Cowboys, Patriots to some degree, Packers, arguably, Bears, and definitely the Jets. So again, if you're sniffing around sort of DLs and linebackers, edge rushers in particular, those are probably some areas I'd be looking at. On the waiver watch, if we start with the DLs, and bear in mind, we're looking at sleepers, so some of these have your dual designation. So, but listen to them as DLs. So we've already touched on Alex Highsmith. I don't think we need to say any more about that, going up against what I feel is a poor Pats offense. Jerry Hughes is another one we've highlighted, going up against Russ Wilson and the Broncos. Rashad Weaver, Nath's done his bit on that as a sort of stand-up replacement for Harold Landry at the Titans. Another one that we hadn't mentioned who did have a good sort of week 1, despite sort of it not being a great game at the Seahawks, was Wosu going up against the Niners. So obviously with he had 7 tackles, sack, forced fumble last week. So that's it for me on the DLs. Anyone do you want to sort of throw in?
I don't think. I think I had all the DLs. Like I said Quitty Pay, I said Grady Jarrett, and I touched
Yeah.
on Malik Reed is the one to come in for that TJ Watt injury. Who did we say the Bengals were? Who are the Bengals up against? Sorry,
Cowboys.
but
We're at the Cowboys.
yeah. So okay, so yeah. You start him anyway, but Micah Parsons has got to be fucking
Yeah.
licking his lips at what the bloody hell happened last week to those. Yeah, to Joe Burrow.
Yeah,
So
I mean, the funny thing is, I mean, very briefly with the Bengals, and it's been highlighted by a few others, there seemed to be a lot of work that had gone into that O line for
yeah,
the Bengals, and particularly on the left hand side, and yet the left guard position looked wide open on Sunday. It seemed to be a real soft spot. So
yeah, it's just it's concerning about Parsons. That's the one that he's the one that you'd watch. You know he got a couple of he sacked Brady twice, didn't he? Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah. I mean that's something.
yeah. So moving on quickly, linebackers again. I had these in my notes, and we've already sort of covered them off.
Yep.
Pete Werner at the Saints, we mentioned him last week, and again we touched on him earlier. So someone to sort of step up and sort of make that role his own. Week 2 against obviously he's up against the Bucks, but I think he's definitely someone to have a look at. And at the Falcons, Nath already touched on it, in the absence of Deion Jones, McCall Walker.
Yeah.
So that's kind of it for the linebackers.
Yeah, I got obviously Gruger Hill. Cammy Gruger Hill. Now, I'm still cautious. So he's one I've got wrong. Out of all the ones that we keep saying about the ones we've got right, Gruger Hill is one that I've got wrong because I thought it was Kirk's job as the main number one, and I'm edging that way. However, it was hell of a lot of snaps. And he's going to get a big tackle season anyway. So I mean, does it really matter who's the main linebacker? Because they both, I would think, are going to be up there. The only thing I would say is there is one thing out about the Colts and Gruger Hill. Gruger Hill, he's done that before, hasn't he? Yeah, 19 tackles. He set the record last year against the Colts as the most tackles. He set a Texans record, 19 tackles, and then he done it again at week 1. So is it just the Colts? Does he just like tackling the Colts? But anyway, yeah, Gruger Hill's one. Go on, mate. Sorry,
I think the only problem we had with Gruger Hill last season, and the reason he's got the potential to do it, but it does seem to be very matchup dependent. So I think that's actually a really, really good point. But we did sort of look at his numbers over the course of, and you go, it's peaks and troughs, and it's that trying to find that consistency. And like you talked about in the education bit, is he that consistent floor that you want week in, week out?
Exactly that, because that's exactly highlighting that point is a big one. That's why we're talking this way when you're talking about those kind of linebackers. We're after this consistent line. We're after these 9, 10, 11 tackles. Beautiful.
Yeah. So, but it'll probably rack up 20.
Yeah.
Right. Finally, DBs that we've done a little bit on. Nate's already highlighted Detroit Tracy Walker. Now, bear in mind, these are sort of players that the couple that I've mentioned already. I've gone and done some shopping around, and in sort of your average sort of 10, 12 team league, they're out there quite readily. Which Tracy Walker, going up against sort of Washington and
he shouldn't be out there. Tracy Walker is actually quite a solid guy.
And to be fair, I mean, I did sort of a lot of the shopping around yesterday. Sort of Wednesday is typically where the waivers all kick in.
Hufanga, Cross,
yeah,
Petrie. That's what I've got. Sorry.
And then again, a couple I have found on there, which was a bit surprising. Marcus Williams at the Ravens surprised me. Difficult. I don't know. I mean, it's
problem with Williams is deep. He could play deep.
Yeah. So against the Dolphins, maybe not. But if he's out there and he's had a good week 1, I wouldn't be adverse to picking him up cheap, stick him on the bench and just see how the next sort of couple of weeks pan out. And on a slightly similar vein, but probably at the Dolphins, Brandon Jones. I think it's again, he seems to be used in this sort of very flexible role. He's getting up into the box, causing problems. I think they'll try that again against the Ravens. Yeah, and they're having to do things like that, like we touched on with Byron Jones being out at corner, being a bit more flexible with the other DBs, bringing pressure on, and I think they will against Lamar. And that's it, unless you've got any more.
Yeah, no, that's it. That definitely covers off this. That covers off the week, and like we've kind of done a bit of review. Obviously, got that first IDP Educate piece out the way, and we're going to continue that and make it a bit bigger and a bit more varied and things like that, and get some more questions in from the public.
There is. I mean, before we sort of wrap up, I don't know whether obviously. Yeah, so with this sort of whole education sort of piece in mind, and as Nath mentioned, sort of week one, we've got some additions to the team. Mike's first article's gone out. He's done a lovely piece.
The big guys up front. Yeah, that was a good one. The
big men, the DLs, sort of what to look at. So, won't spoil it for you. We both read it.
So up on the website, 5 Yard Rush. Yeah. We shared it on Twitter as well. So if you haven't read that, get a read of that. The second article is going to be out. I would say it's going to be out. Might be tomorrow. Probably Friday. It's going to be out. That is the linebacker one. I've got that in my inbox. I've just got to get it up on the website and get it on for Mike. So happy days. I'm going to speak to Lewis about him coming on for a little bit next week if he can as well. Just to mix it up, so we're not just seeing us two ugly mugs every week. And apart from that, though, I think you done?
I'm done. I'm definitely done. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, guys, we will see you next week. Have a cracking week too. Here's the outro.